Hey, I'm Jeremy Johnson, and today I'm talking about applying service design to the workplace. This is a presentation I gave with a coworker of mine at the Big Design Conference. So, did you know there are over 100 million people in the US using a service that has little to no experience design or customer research? There's a chance you've used this service. It's the office space. Although not all of us are in the office space 40 hours a week, many of us are going back to the office at different cadences, different hybrid scenarios. And if you're in an office space around 40 hours a week, that's 35% of your time when you're not asleep. Big impact on your life. Nearly across 5 billion square feet of office space, it's estimated that only 10 to 20% of the space has had any service design activities applied to its creation. Shouldn't this product be purposely designed for the user, have metrics, teams iterating to improve the experience? Inc. has a blog where they showcase different, as they put it, world's coolest offices. Uber had a post on there recently, and funny enough, it talks about how can they shift the culture? Can they impact employee morale by a interactive light display in their lobby? Not sure about that, but there are plenty of beautiful spaces out there. In fact, our Chicago studio has architects, interior designers, and they design great workspaces, very usable, very beautiful spaces. But we know that usable and beautiful doesn't always equal a great experience. And experience is what we want to talk about. What's interesting is when you're thinking about employee experience or the workplace, like there are metrics that you could tie to: productivity, efficiency, reduce attrition, attraction, skill development, innovation. Sure, these are all goals, things you should be trying to move the needle on. And of course, well-being of the team members in the spaces, a term we'll use called flourishing, which I'll talk about more later. But unfortunately, like a lot of groups actually don't tie these things to metrics when they're thinking about workspaces. Unfortunately, and the beautiful component does come in, and again, which they are, but a lot of times it's how many people can we fit in this space and not really think about how people work, like how the different teams connect with each other, whether or not their teams are remote or their teams are in person or around the corner, right? And so it's how many people can we fit and is it cool? So we all know to create great experiences, a couple things, ingredients you usually need. You need some customer insights or employee insights, right? In this case, you need to understand that employee journey. Like it's good to understand what the teams do and how they work. And then it's that combination, right? This isn't really just like a space thing, like a physical space thing. There's people, there's process involved, and there's digital solutions. Buildings are becoming more and more digitally focused, from giving teams data to how they interact with the buildings. And of course, from an employee experience perspective and a productivity perspective, just digital generally for the employees. And so mixing all that up, right? So again, I'm Jeremy Johnson, SVP of Experience Transformation at Genient. During the presentation at Big Design, one of our architects was with me. We're going to talk about how to transform work environments into user-centric spaces, enhancing productivity and well-being in the age of hybrid work and technological innovation. So here's a picture, right? Is this a great employee experience? This is not an AI photo. This is a 2015 photo of the Facebook office, all the developers, everyone's there. And it's funny because if you start to zoom in and look, there's some people that kind of got their hands on their head, and it looks like someone's having a birthday party over there. And, what's funny is if you talk to Mark Zuckerberg at the time, he said to him, this was the perfect space. The idea is to make the perfect engineering space, one giant room that fits thousands of people all close enough to collaborate together. Now, since then, and even before COVID, open offices were starting to get a little bit of a bad rep as more data came out about them. In fact, Harvard Business Review had an article in 2019, and there were several reasons why employees often find the environments challenging. And just a couple of them that are interesting is like face-to-face interactions actually dropped in these open offices, and it increased digital communication, noise, sick days, lack of privacy, like all these other issues. And one thing is you could say follow the money, right? Because you save money with open offices because you can fit more people in the spaces, and lots of companies saved money by moving to open office formats. And so it turned into like, how many people can we fit on this floor, right? Now, a little known fact is that during Steve Jobs and his time at Pixar, like he actually rejected the classic open office plan that was happening at that time, again, around the same time, around 2015, and instead kind of went for a distraction-free individual office combined with large shared recreational areas. This is great, right? Because again, you're allowing the teams to get in the flow state and do that distraction-free work, and then you have areas for collaboration. And our coworker and here at Genient, architect, he also thought open spaces, open floor plans were not great. And actually, the Wall Street Journal profiled him in 2020, one architect's radical vision to replace the open office. So this is starting to steamroll a little bit. Again, this is just slightly before COVID. And he had this idea, the Unimonian machine, where it's like to get someone in a perfect state of doing deep, powerful work, there's a process that you could take, and you could go through In his early sketches, it was gallery, salon, library, office, and deep work chamber. And then later on, he expanded that out. And imagine a workspace where you come in and you enter an area that's very vibrant. People are getting coffee, people are chatting, right? Like really pushes your energy up. Maybe you pass through a library that shows all the amazing past work, right? And then you go into the open office, and there's still some collaborative areas, there's office spaces, but then it goes into highly focused in a place to like relax as well. And the modern workplace, you could think about it as like areas like explore, socialize, study, collaborate, focus, and rest. And so he's mocked up and designed these out. And as we talk with clients about how their spaces should be configured, and again, there is a best practice, which we think this is a great best practice. And then there's the actual product discovery around your teams. Like, how do your teams work? Because every company is different in this manner. But things like even walking through a gallery of all the great work going on across different offices. Again, that place to create the buzz, the place that has the history and study areas, meeting rooms, individual workspaces, highly focused deep work, war rooms, a place to reflect, right? So these are all great areas that really will help drive those metrics that we were talking about earlier. So COVID came and we thought, this is it. Everyone's going to change. Like the office has got to be reimagined, right? So why isn't everyone doing this? Like, why are there still a lot of open floor plans out there? As with many design efforts, you need to push past inertia, right? So one, you're breaking through silos. Who owns employee experience? Who owns the workplace, the team experience? How do you get everyone to become more user-centered, to ask those right questions? And then how do you just do something different, right? When you're used to doing the same thing every time, sometimes it's hard to do something different. And so breaking silos as an example, and this space is actually maybe even more complex than the digital realm, where it's like who owns employee experience, like CHRO, CPOs, HR departments, IT, CXOs. And then we talk about who owns the workplace, right? You have facilities and PMOs and real estate, workplace strategy, right? You have all these different groups that kind of or partially own different parts of this. And then getting everyone user-centered. Some people in physical space actually think people are the problem. For them, they're trying to build this hyper-efficient, effective space, maybe low carbon footprint, and the people are actually part of the problem. And getting them human-centered, and this is the double diamond, popular, obviously, design thinking framework, and actually showing this to architects, interior designers, really put a lot of light bulbs kind of over their head of how we can learn more before designing the space. And then just doing something different, right? Like when we're working with clients, we hear quotes like, tired of talking about the future of work, it never happened. I'm not seeing any innovation from anyone we're working with, right? So people are frustrated and they do want to see better ways of working. And so how do you apply service design to the workplace? And you get it, not just workplace, right? This also helps with the employee experience generally. In one case, we were working with this large supplier. They had one of their divisions. They were moving across town. I thought it was a good time to really see during this move, how they could make a more effective workplace for their teams. Lots of different service design models. This is one of the many, but to clarify, to understand, to define and deliver, right? These are the processes that we're going to go through. And we embedded a cross-functional team into the client's current space. We did a survey, which kind of early on revealed major challenges of how we could help creatives find the focus that they need. And there were a couple different major issues. One of them was actually distractions from peers and calls. And these were teams of mostly creators. They were creating products that the company then would sell. And so they needed that deep work focused time. We did qualitative methods. We went into the office place and watched, followed, questioned, listened, and then develop them into different experiences needed to meet the teams and the business. So like key themes of things that they need to do in the new space to support their teams and their business. We developed personas for the teams across their different work styles. They all kind of have different ways of working. And then based on work styles, you can actually start to develop those zones that we talked about earlier. We can start to apply those to the different types of individuals they have in that office. And when you think about how people work, and this is how our personas grew up from this, like you have some folks who spend their time mentoring, some folks who spend their time building, some folks who spend their time collaborating. In this case, creating was like more like designing with digital tools, and building was like literally building like physical things. And we were able to take all of that information from that kind of discovery process and actually say, okay, great. Like here are the tasks and activities that are happening across your organization. And then here is the amount of space you need within this space to drive those activities. And so in this case, like the creation space was very large in display. Again, they're making physical products. They needed a display area, very unique to them, collaboration area, focus area. And so this is how this space needed to be broken up. And then from there, the interior designers and architects took it and started to like concept and ideate on the different zones and areas, finally iterating on different concepts. And at the end, it all came together in a floor plan of exactly where and how much each of these areas would affect in that specific floor plate. So we went through the service design process there. When you talk about the future, employee experience really is this connection between digital process, culture, physical space. We do have some clients asking us to design in that way, as in, hey, someone is coming through our building. They're coming up to meet with one of our managers, right? What does the entire experience look like? What's the digital check-in before they arrive? What's maybe a kiosk or security look like? Which rooms are they waiting in? So people are starting to ask for these things. And it really comes down to measurement. That's another big one as well. We feel if organizations were more focused on productivity and reducing attrition and flourishing, and my coworker David D has been pushing flourishing recently. The idea is when you're flourishing at work, you feel good, you're doing good, you're growing personally and professionally, and because the environment supports that well-being. And so he's actually developing a framework where you do a daily self-rating system of how impactful you felt like you were for the day, and just your well-being, right? Are you flourishing in the workplace? And that's even a metric that potentially offices and buildings could track in the future. So that's applying service design to the workplace. Short little presentation, hopefully get some gears turning and some ideas out there. We do feel like more and more businesses and large organizations are starting to realize the importance of kind of service design throughout an entire process, which is great. And we're excited to see more of it as time goes on.